Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. This watch is a fascinating piece because it's a picture of the evolution of Bulgari watchmaking, but also the journey of the Daniel Roth brand, which has recently been revived. It's hard to believe that in the early 2010s, Bulgari, which owned the Daniel Roth and Gerald Genta brands, planned to subsume both into the Bulgari brand, just have one luxury watch label built out of the original factory that constructed the Genta and Roth watches. Well, both of them are back now, so this is an interesting intermediate step in the development of the watch bearing the name of Daniel Roth. So the watch here is actually a model first shown in its initial form back at Baselworld 2009. And by Baselworld 2010, it had become the watch you see right here, the Bulgari Daniel Roth Endurer Chronosprint, a very aggressive steel sports watch made of a material called Stay Bright 4435 marine stainless steel. More on that in a moment. So the Genta and Roth brands had been combined since the early 1990s. They were sold to the Hourglass, then to Bulgari, then Bulgari was sold to LVMH, all of this becoming very confused with time. But what's important here is that it is a true high horology watch made out of the same factory that previously built the Roth watches. So while this is very different from anything Daniel would have recognized, it is a high-quality, high-grade horlogerie watch. It's big, at 51 millimeters wide, not including the crown. I measure at 55.8 from lug to lug and 14.4 thick. On my wrist, you can see the watch, which also has bracelet and strap options available. It was made with rubber, leather, and steel bracelet. But you can see it actually fits fine. It's a big watch, so I'd recommend that you wear it for aesthetics on a wrist of 17 centimeters circumference or larger. Again, my wrist is 16, and I feel like this is just a little too big for me. It's not super thick, though. You can see the contouring of the case, the scalloped side, the shape of the bezel, the crystal, the slope of the lugs. It's a very sophisticated form. The strap is impressive, very large, rectangular, symmetrical scale alligator leather, cut thick, stuffed, bolstered, and folded along the edge with a monotone stitch. And you can see that it is calfskin on the bottom, and it is a brand new factory strap, no crimping, no gouging. We have a Bulgari branded buckle here with a combination of polish and satin and an elevated bridge. So once all this is combined together, you can see that the buckle accommodates the strap inside it rather than stacking up beneath and adding height. Now it's fixed to the case using screws and bars, which I always like to see. That's a bit more secure than spring bars. And it's fully integrated in a way that seems almost prophetic from today's standpoint. This is where design would eventually go, just not until many years later. And you can see that we've got this lovely compound contouring where the case slopes down towards its end, but then it also has an inward bowed profile, a bevel along the side that runs from end to end on the case, satination. It's really good looking. You can see how the crystal is not only non-round, but also cambered from side to side. We have this lovely fluid flowing form along with the bezel itself, which includes assembly hardware on the dial side that looks fantastic. We have a little steering wheel style or train wheel style, polished and media blasted crown. It's a push-down crown, but the watch is 100 meters water resistant. You can see on the back, it boasts of Stay Bright stainless steel. Now, I did a little bit of digging here, and it looks like this is a steel made by Hempel Special Metals, and this is 4435 marine industrial stainless steel, but importantly, it's a type of 316L. It's said to be more corrosion resistant, but being 316, it is at least chemically related to the steel commonly seen on luxury watches. So it's a fun fact, and it's a little bit of a different kind of branding. I'm not sure it's more corrosion resistant than standard steel. It's definitely not high nickel 904L. But hey, more features are fun even when they're more folklore than fact. Taking a look at the dial, we have that scalloped design from the case, which you can also see on the ends of the lugs, and it's repeated in the form of striations across the dial. We have plenty of lume here. You're not going to find any shortage of it. It's easier to read the time maybe with the lights off than with the lights on. And what at first glance appears as though it might have been some sort of a dual time watch starts to look more and more like the Patek Philippe Nautilus 40th anniversary chronograph. Although, again, keep in mind this design originated in 2009. Now we've got a set of discs up at the top, so it's a big date with a quick set, and if you look carefully, they're actually printed on sapphire discs, which is a fascinating look. Even though there is no seconds hand here, if you turn this over and you look at the Girard-Perregaux movement base, you can see that there is a hacking function, so you can actually stop the movement. And then the module includes this unique concentric double scale with 60 minutes and 12 chronograph hours continuously in operation until you set the flyback action. So it is a slow chronograph like the old Breitling 2005 diving chrono, but this has both minutes and hours. Now, when I put the crown in its intermediate position, you can see how I'm able to quick set those sapphire discs, and we've got a little bit of branding built in there as well, which is kind of fun. So you can see this watch is full of surprises, and a lot of thought went into it. Care, attention, love, and a distinct sense of fun. Everything from the unique typeface to the branding to the sapphire discs printed white, they just look fantastic. There's a metal frame surrounding it, so it's not an ugly, austere cut in the dial. And then watch the mono counter now down at the bottom. It's a flyback, and it's always running, kind of like an Omega Chronostop, only it's slow because it only has minutes and hours. And then we've got this lovely combination of black and silver concentric patterning, or azurage, that looks great. And you can see not only do we have this lateral ribbing, but it's actually scooped and concave. Really cool. The module with the flyback, the big date, all of this is profoundly neat and a lot of fun. And on the reverse side, you can see the movement's clearly a GP 3300, which is a good movement. Like JLC or Zenith, it's a high horology automatic for a high horology watch. Now, it's a unidirectional winder, 4 hertz, 33 joules, 5-position adjusted, hacking seconds, a 45-hour power reserve. You can see it uses KIF shock protection, which is kind of like the lower volume upscale cousin to Inca block. We have a combination of linear stripes, credible bevels, polished screw heads, engine turning. Then you turn it all over, and you can see there's also solarization, double solarization, in fact, on the barrel cover. They're calling this the DR 1306, and that's fine. That's what it is when combined with the module, but it's a GP 3000 series base. And you can see that the bevels are quite credible. They're lighting up. They're reasonably polished. This is well done. I really love the double solarization on the barrel. And again, a 45-hour power reserve, 5-position adjustment. That is the high horology and chronometer standard. I love to see it here. The DR brand is back, guys. And I feel like with this watch, all of a sudden, this is suddenly a lot more credible as part of an ongoing story rather than the twilight of the brand. This now has a lot more relevance, and its prophetic vision of what a sports watch might look like in 2025 and 2026 makes it of even greater interest. So reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.